Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Celebrity Natal Charts. Today, we are going to be looking at the chart of Scarlett Archibald Johansson, born New York City, New York, United States, December 22nd, 1984, year of the rat. Um, at 7 a.m., birth time accuracy poor. So Scarlett Johansson, born November 22nd, does not have a middle name. Is an American actress, model, and singer. She made her film debut in North, 1994, and was later nominated for the Independent Spirit Award for Best Female Lead for her performance. In Manny and Low, 1996, garnering further acclaim and prominence with roles in The Horse Whisperer, 1998, and The Ghost World, 2001. She shifted to adult roles with her performance in Girl with a Pearl Earring, 2003, and Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation, 2003, for which she won a BAFTA award for Best Actress in a Leading Role. Both films earned her a Golden Globe Award nominations as well. So both films earned her Golden Globe Award nominations as well. Great. I don't think she won, but so welcome. Grab a beverage and sit down and shut up. So Scarlett Johansson, that's so crazy. Like, I didn't even know her acting career started in the early '90s. Like when I'm thinking Scarlett Johansson, I'm thinking Scoop, in the Woody Allen movie, who's also a Sagittarius, and Scarlett Johansson is the Sagittarius rising Sagittarius. So, you're talking to an astrologer and they're like, you don't know poop about astrology. All you know is your sun sign. And you're like, well, my sun sign and my rising sign are the same. Which is different because I always say that like your sun sign is more of like the monopoly piece that you choose to go through life, and your rising is more like the game that you're playing. So, I don't know, uh, like being a rising Sagittarius, it's like being like the thimble in Monopoly, and the Sun in Sagittarius is like being the thimble in Monopoly, and the rising Sagittarius is like playing Rat Trap or Candyland or chess or whatever the game might be. And then for me, as I'm always like Sagittarius, they're the mega stars. Like even like the Sagittarius that I know from the '60s, from the astrology books that I used to read. Doing this series and having an updated profile of like celebrity people, even though even like some of the celebrity in time and art moves so quickly, because I have like lined up people like Christina Aguilera, and I'm like, is she still famous? Is she still a celebrity? But to me, celebrity will always be like that early 2000s and Flavor Flav and reality TV and MTV and that type of stuff. So she'll always be a celebrity in my mind. And like I've always thought of Scarlett Johansson as being like a megastar. She's been in a lot of movies, so much more movies than I'm aware of, and she's dating Colin Jost still, maybe not. I don't know. Whenever you're listening to this, but she has the first. She has like I'm like almost already exhausted. Like she has a first house in Sagittarius. She has Mercury in Sagittarius. She has Uranus in Sagittarius, and she has Neptune in Sagittarius, I believe. So like, not only is she a Sagittarius rising Sagittarius, her Neptune is actually in Capricorn. I'm sorry, but not only she is a Sagittarius rising Sagittarius, she also has Uranus, Mercury, and her Sun in Sagittarius as well. Sort of making a Sagittarius stellium. But there's a lot of like planets in Scorpio and Capricorn. There's a lot of activity around her self-esteem and her image. Which, I mean, if her image is conducive to her self-esteem, hopefully, as even myself as like an admirer of her beauty, that has brought her a lot of good luck and fortune in her life. The rising Sagittarius is about being competitive with the father side of the family, and it would make sense that her accolades would be lined and refined and hallmarked by the awards that she's accomplished. Um, God, I know, was it The Island? She's like in a Gattaca type of movie, like dystopian future, whatever. So like the planet of Uranus and Saturn in the first house talks about like the boundlessness of limitation. So, I'm like, oh, she's dating Colin Jost, and like she could probably date Colin Jost. She could probably date like a French prince. She has a lot of fame and a lot of acclaim. There's like not a lot of like, I mean, I wouldn't pigeonhole her in a role in a movie. She's apparently a singer. I don't think I've ever heard any of her music before, but I could probably have her CD somewhere as far as I know. As far as my memory is worth, and she also has Mercury in Sagittarius, which it makes sense that she's a singer. I don't know why in my mind I'm like Sagittarius, they're not singers. Like that's Libra. Like Libra's the singer. Like they're really good at singing. But it's like there's a difference between being good at singing and having the confidence to sing and having the audience to sing to. And I'm like really curious as to hear some of her music and what that's like. But even like myself, through like other readings I've been doing, like there is Candace Dillard from like the Real Housewives of Potomac, and like Real Housewives, Bravo. Everybody has a song now, Drag Race, and they're bad, and you're like just listening to it out of support of a like fandom. And I still have yet to listen to her music, but like my spirit guides, I'm like, I know, listen to her music. Her music's probably good. She's a Sagittarius, like I always saying Jimi Hendrix and then Jim Morrison in the Doors. I'm like, it seems dumb, So even like in my head, I'm like, oh, Scarlett Johansson album, what is that about? And like it's probably really good. And those are her plans. And her sun is in Sagittarius as well, so that her soul, she's like very competitive. Like I said, competitive with her father side of the family, doing well. Like I guess maybe if you're beautiful, like Scarlett Johansson, and you're like, okay, well I'm good looking, and I'm an actor and a singer. But like as an actor and a singer, who isn't good looking? As a normal person, you're like, oh, like I would, I'd kiss a frog to look good or look as half as good as her. But it's like, okay, well, out the gate, first house, you're already good looking. You need to like, and it's like being a glazed donut, and it's like, okay, well, now to compete with the other flavors of donuts, you need to like spice yourself up or sweeten yourself even more. And then her second house is in Capricorn, where she also has the planet Neptune, Venus, and Jupiter. So, a second house in Capricorn, I think, is like the second house. It's an Earth house. It's ruled by Taurus. It gives me sort of the same energy as like Jane Fonda or a couple of these other female celebrities, where it's like you think they'd be all wrapped up in their looks and they'd be a prima donna and a diva, and it's like they're just worried about the bottom line and brass tacks. And that brings her a lot of luck. And she has Venus in Capricorn, so her relationships or who she tries to attract is like, is for the sake of business. And, I don't know how much power Colin Jost has at SNL, but it's like, yeah, I guess like worst comes to worst, like, oh, give my wife a job, she's funny, It's like job security in that relationship. So Venus in Capricorn, and then even Colin Jost's look is very Capricorn, the square hair. I don't know his sign, but it's like very square cut. He wears a suit at least to work, so that's probably very attractive to her. She has Jupiter in Capricorn, so Capricorn. So like let's like Jupiter. She's got Jupiter in Capricorn, and she's got Neptune in Capricorn, and Jupiter is a planet of good luck and fortune. So being around like straight lace, Hank Hill type characters, King of the Megalomart, bring her a lot of good luck and fortune. So I mean, like I don't know if you saw Scarlett Johansson at Nobu, you probably wouldn't talk to her, right? You're like, oh, let me just let her have her lunch. But if you see her at Walmart, you're probably like, oh my God, like I love the North, and you're my favorite actress, and blah blah blah, and like probably is like really good for her self esteem. But then also having Neptune in the second house, which isn't the best because Pisces and Neptune energy aren't really known as like a cash cow. So, I guess it was a different world. Like, she might be like a goat farmer or like a fisherwoman. But I would keep saying in this series, it's like a Capricorn, whether if it's the person literally like opening the door at the studio, or the person giving her the contract is usually in charge of her like first TV appearance or her appearance in movies and her ability to cast illusions through television media. So that's very lucky for her. and she might like start like her own like business, like selling cookies or cupcakes or whatever it is that she does, because whatever it'll be very successful and very aesthetic. And I guess that's the thing about Scarlett Johansson. Like, if Scarlett Johansson bought up a bunch of Papa John's and were like, this is Scarlett Johansson pizza, I would go there not out of support of her and her celebrity, but it's because I'm already going to Papa John's. Um, so that's her. That's her second house. And nothing like really strikes me as like being bad with that. And then in her third house, she has Aquarius. So the third house and the fourth house, this starts to talk about like her childhood and her relationship to her cousins and classmates and comrades, and her family and the environment. So with the third house in Aquarius, it's like she was either on the receiving end of a lot of a charity, like, maybe her parents weren't around a lot, they had a lot of people taking care of her. Perhaps there's a good network of friends and family to help raise her. But as I would say, that with somebody with like the third house in Aries, like Flavor Flav, they grew up in an aggressive. Oh, she's from New York too. Everybody, like literally all the celebrities I've chosen for the Sagittarius are from New York. Yeah, she's from New York too. And so like Jane Fonda, and so is that like aggressive, like, hey, she doesn't even have sort of that like New Yorker accent, like, hey, I'm walking here, like type of attitude. But I guess for her, as I'm saying, like, oh, Jane Fonda, she could have lived in a penthouse, and she's still shooting dice on the street with hobos during the Great Depression. I feel like wherever Scarlett Johansson lived in New York was actually very nice. I mean, in someone else's chart or knowledge, I don't know. Like this, actually, like the third house in Aquarius sounds like Section 8 housing or like government housing, which she could have lived very close to. She could have a lot of knowledge about. I mean, it's more like maybe in this chart, it's like maybe you should be reading the chart of her mother or something to really get a sense of who she is. But that's her third house. It's Aquarius, so it's like very friendly. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the rising air, or the third house in Aries is very aggressive and mean. Her childhood environment is very friendly. And the fourth house in Pisces is very friendly, very spiritual, very compassionate, very much about God and about Jesus. And, if she grew up in some type of like satanic or atheist hellhole, then it's like maybe she's bringing the wicked energy because of this place that she lived growing up was nice. So, you could be like a sun Aries with a rising Sagittarius, and you're like, oh no, like my home life was full of like bullies and ugliness and meanness. And it's like, well, were you the one bringing the ugliness and meanness? Because it says Aquarius and Pisces, like you grew up by a river. And there could have been like New York. It could have been like the Hudson River. It could have been like the pond in New York in the Central Park or whatever. But very beautiful, very serene. A lot of her family members might work for charity events or philanthropy. Fourth house in Pisces, like I said, her mother has like a very deep connection to God and spirituality and occultism. And that's the thing. And it's like, looking at her chart, like, you guys at home go into astrocharts.com and pull up Scarlett Johansson's chart, you'll see that like all of her planets are pretty much like gunked up in her first and 12th house, which is talking about her how she looks, and it's like she's a looker, five. And I mean, like, that's the kind of like the spell of beauty, because like when you first see her in a movie, she's like very stunning, or it's like the time period that I'm trying to remember. When I first saw her, because I haven't really seen a lot of her earlier work, it was like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful woman that's ever graced a screen, And then like after a couple of years, you're like, oh, there's better people out there. Which is maybe because I'm just a man or something, I don't know. But she has a fifth house in Aries. So we're always talking about how Aries is the house of obstacles and sexy distractions and like the lion's den, and how do you get out of this pit of creation of things that you love. Like it's like a bear trap, filled with everything that you love and you like. It's like ice cream and good times and popcorn. So for that, it's anger. It's like anger is like a trap for her. When she starts to, like, because it's like a competition. So if you're like running a triathlon and all of a sudden, through the last leg of the race, you get like furious, And for some other people with other charts and rising Scorpio, like that's what we would push them through. But for her, it's a hurdle and a setback. And through the race of life, she might be in the boardroom or negotiating a contract. And I think of some people, I'm like, oh, maybe like Drew Barrymore or something. It was like the more angry you become, the more people are willing to listen to you. And for her, I guess it's like the opposite. Like she can't really like act like a diva because people won't want to listen to her or have sex with her or take her advice if she's like screaming at them, right? So how she gets over that and how she overcomes the pitfall of being maybe too aggressive or too angry is from New York. Is Taurus by making a bunch of money and having a lot of financial stability, because if she has financial stability, she can maybe yell at people and not really care as much. I believe this is also saying to me that she has the North Node in Taurus as well. It's actually retrograde, but outside of that, it was be saying that it was her destiny to be financially stable, maybe even to like work on a farm, or to work with agriculture and farming. And so it's like, if she's like auditioning for a role, loses the role, instead of going to the studio and setting it on fire or like, bashing everybody that didn't help her, move forward, it's better for her to like go take a vacation on a farm somewhere with bucolic views in Central America or China or something like that. And that's Scarlett Johansson. And then her seventh house, so she has the rising Sagittarius. Her seventh house is in Gemini because that is 7 signs from Sagittarius. It's their opposite sign. Where she also has Chiron. So Chiron and Gemini in the seventh house is like dating somebody. A lot like James Hong a little bit. Like the energy I was getting from James Hong, where it's like they like to correct the way that you speak or your accent or accent work. And like, oh, you sound like this, you sound like that. And then it's like they have a thick New York accent. Like, you're saying this stuff wrong. Like, you sound like a cartoon from the 40s. Like, you're saying this stuff wrong. But it's because of Chiron, and it's like I can help you in ways that I cannot help myself. So I might have a thick, crazy accent, but I know how to help you not have such a thick, crazy accent. It's something I can help in myself. It like might be a problem with the teeth, maybe something wrong with her leg, maybe something wrong with her head, and it's like I know how to help you with this. But it also says that the best match for her would be somebody born with a sun or rising Gemini or Gemini energy in general. And even if she doesn't like Gemini, she may like be constantly manifesting them in her life because they're in her seventh house. And in her eighth house, she has Cancer. Cancer in the eighth house talks about like spiritualism and occultism. But to me, eighth house Cancer seems like very much like secret spiritual practices. So, she's doing spiritual work or whatever it is, and she just keeps it a secret. And like I said, with her fourth house in Pisces, that this stems from her connection to her mom. So maybe her mother is Catholic and doesn't want her to do witchcraft or something, and she's like, I got to do witchcraft to protect myself from these devils in Hollywood. And so she maybe like keeps it a secret from her, or how she like authentically, genuinely believes about God and spirituality. She doesn't really discuss with her mother or mother's side of the family. And then in her ninth house, she has Leo. So it's like saying like she learned to be famous. She might have gone to an acting school. From what I see in her bio, she started out very early and as a young girl. So even being famous or popular or having good hair like a Leo might have been somewhat of like a setback for her, or like I say, like a distraction to her education and long distance travel. I'm sure she travels just as much as she wants to nowadays, maybe not. But it's like, I guess she would have been able to go further with her education if she wasn't so famous and popular. But it is also her fate and destiny to be famous and popular. And like I said, know very little about Scarlett Johansson. She could have her master's degree from Oxford and Harvard. And none of it was in her bio. But what I see in her chart is like her chart, the birth time of accuracy that is very poor. I see that is a struggle for her, and it would be a struggle. Like even like school nowadays. that I hoped 20 years ago. It's like mostly online. So it would probably be very uncomfortable for her to go into like a community college or any college and sit in a lecture and then like have the not have the whole lecture be sucked in by the energy of her fame. Which also might just be a delusion because, those movies that she did in the early 2000s or early 90s, I mean, I was a baby, but like completely unaware of. Because you think, like, like there's a ton of movies that I've seen from the 80s, I think are from the 80s, might be from some other time, but, like the Coneheads or Star Wars or whatever, where people are like, you have to watch these movies. So I've never seen The North or whatever it is. Ninth house in Leo. So the ninth house, also does talk about like a good partner for marriage, or a long distance relationship. So if she's trying to have like a long distance love affair outside of Colin Jost, a Leo would be a good person to do that with. But then also, if Colin Jost is a Leo, he would be good for a long-term relationship and to be together for a long time, like marriage. An ever-expanding love, like Jupiter. And then so her 10th house is in Virgo, where she also has her midheaven, like very much in like the middle of the Virgo house. Yes. So she's a midheaven in Virgo. And that says that her destiny is to like work in education. So maybe she won't work at Papa John's. Maybe she'll do a Papa John's training video. But her destiny is to be like a teacher. Or even I feel like Nelly Furtado works at a library, it would have said. Sounds super lucrative. And then her 11th house is in Libra. I think the Libra 11th house is a good place to be because it's like, hello, my fair weather friends. When she's doing well, she's very social, and when she's not, she isn't, and she doesn't allow that necessarily to destroy her. It says that she's really good with technology. I'm super wondering right now. I'm like, what? I need to look at this Scarlett Johansson album. Like, is it techno? Is it her singing with the ukulele? Is it Taurian or is it Aquarian? Because for me, with the Libra in the 12th house or 11th house, it's like she would most definitely use like an electric guitar or like an electric violin or like an electric drum machine. Maybe it's hip hop. Maybe she's rapping. Um, you know. So I'm very curious about that. And then she has the 12th house in Scorpio, where she also believe has Pluto and Saturn. And I was like, there's like not a lot of jazz going on in her chart, really, other than her first house around her looks, but then also her 12th house of like what makes her miserable. 12th house, what makes you miserable, which then makes you spiritual and powerful and is your connection to your psychic intuition. And the 12th house is a really good house. It's just like, it's the moon tarot card. It's like kind of sad and lonely and it's the things that you do on your own, which in this world we've painted to be bad. Like, you're going to the mall. It's good to have a mall buddy, and it's like, oh, they're going to the mall alone. Like, they must be doing something dark, you know? But like I said, she has Pluto in her 12th house of Scorpio, also Saturn, and also her moon. And the Scorpion moon, it is obviously like, it's like their only feeling is revenge, So it's like, they're watching Passion of the Christ, and they're like, I must get revenge. They're watching Armistead, and like, I must help them get revenge. And, they're watching the Care Bear movie, and they're like, I must make a Care Bear movie, and I must get revenge, Because, I want a movie about little stuffed bears, too. She also has Pluto in Scorpio. Pluto is Scorpio's ruling planet. So, she's very spiteful. And, Saturn, and her anger and her spite and her, like, whatever, it's a setback. Like I'm saying, like Aries in the 5th house holds her back with the anger. And then Saturn and Pluto in Scorpio in her 12th house, it's like she's like really spiteful against the people who brought her a lot of misery. And like I think in the Jason Bateman or something video, I was talking about like, how many auditions are actually auditions and not just like bitter directors trying to embarrass you, So that's what she's been going through, and she's very like she's doing like macumba or voodoo or something to get back at all the people that didn't cast her in the movies that she wanted to get casted in, and that's what I see. But thank you guys for sharing, liking, and subscribing, and listening to this me, mumble and mutter this video about Scarlett Johansson. And if you have a friend who is a Sagittarius, rising Sagittarius, or a friend who does not know who is a Sagittarius who does not know their rising sign, this would be a really good video to watch, because it basically talks about the life of a Sagittarius, even though you might be a Monopoly piece on a Candyland board, but it's relative, and it's just like, for me, I'm a Pisces, I'm like all the above, it's all the same. So all right, well, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.